all my chips and call all in. I'll bet on myself, you keep stalling. I hear destiny and it's calling. I'll keep my head up high through the downs and lows, and we're all growing life. Still nobody knows, but I'ma choose what's right and take what comes and goes, and ain't no one in life.
Hey special family, welcome back to another video. Today's video, fair use reaction video, is about our special need kids who have really aggressive meltdowns that come with hitting and kicking. A teacher has something she wants to tell us about that, how to handle something like that. Let's take a look.
Special ed parents, I'm going to say the thing your school won't say. My name is Ms. Brandy. I help aggressive, autistic, and neurotypical kids calm down, and the parents and professionals to take the power back. Let's talk about the autistic and special needs kids who hit, kick, spit at, scream at teachers, paras, RBT therapists, while school staff beg administrators for help and parents defend the behavior. It's sensory, it's trauma, it's his diagnosis. But the truth is, you can love your child and still hold them accountable. You can understand where the behavior comes from and still put a stop to it. Because here's what's happening. Parents show up to IEP meetings ready to fight the school, but they're not fighting the behavior at home. Instead of asking, what can we do to help him behave better? They ask, what is the school doing wrong? And schools, terrified of lawsuits, write behavior plans with zero consequences. They protect institutions, not children. So aggressive kids get rewarded, teachers get blamed, and parents go online saying, the school failed my child. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to warn you. Your child will not always be 7. They will be 17. And if they hit someone, break something, disrobe in public, it's not going to be called sensory. It's going to be called a crime. Love doesn't mean letting it slide. Love means fixing it. And what's the most outrageous thing you've ever heard in an IEP meeting? I want to hear it.
I personally think it's easier said than done that parents use, oh, it's the diagnosis, it's this, is that. No, it really is the diagnosis. And most of the time, parents can't do anything about it. Sometimes we have to turn to medication to be able to handle it. That's how bad it is.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright, and for the first time in a long time I'm alright. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I ain't going back, I'm not falling. I'll push all my chips and call all in. I'll bet on myself, you keep stalling. I hear destiny and it's calling. I'll keep my head up high through the downs and lows, and we're all growing life. Still nobody knows, but I'ma choose what's right and take what comes and goes, and ain't no one in life.
And yes, there are parents who have no discipline, no boundaries, and no progress, but is it their fault? No. And some parents do parent the autism and not the child, but that doesn't mean that the other parents aren't doing that. I don't think it's the parents' fault. I think these meltdowns come in, but I also do think that parents need to discipline their child, whether they have autism or not. There are boundaries, there are rules for a child with autism and a child that does not have autism. I agree with that. But some of our kids with special needs, no matter the discipline, no matter the boundaries, they still go off beat. What do we do in that case? Let me know what you think about that in the comment section. So I have some more videos where people do agree with her, and I can see both sides of the coin. But my thing is, what do we do? Because if none of these tactics work, what do we do?
All right, so a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but let's talk about autistic children and aggression, all right? A lot of times, autistic kids will be labeled as bad kids or aggressive for no reason, but one of the biggest reasons why these kids aren't able to, control their behaviors is they struggle to express themselves, right? They might be nonverbal, or even if they can speak, they have a hard time expressing themselves. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to control the aggression in the immediate situation, make sure everybody's safe, right? There's no harm to others, no harm to self. After that, we want to make sure that we can help this child express their needs. If they're nonverbal, we'll take pointing. If they can point somewhere, we'll take that. We'll take all the wins that we can get. And as we help this child express their needs better, a lot of times in my personal experience with patients, you see the aggression come down. And then once there's no aggression and they can express their needs, we do our best to integrate them into society.
After a lot of thought and a pretty heavy discussion with my husband, I've decided to answer this question for you and for the 100 other people that have asked. I hope you don't mind that I grabbed your comment, and I hope that I'm not going to regret this. It's going to be a long one, so grab a pen. I can only share our personal experience, and some of what I'm going to talk about is going to be pretty uncomfortable for some people. Once again, on these types of posts, if I get a lot of bully comments, I'm going to shut down the comments and the ability to message me. The only thing that helped with my daughter's aggression was treating her stomach. Absolutely no therapy helped her at all until we treated her stomach, period. 2013 was the last time that my daughter was physically aggressive with me, and I want to talk for a second about what that means to me so that we're all on the same page. I have been knocked down to the concrete in my own front yard. I've been hit and kicked, and mostly while she's flailing around, completely out of control. I have been stuck on the floor of a Walmart until my husband came to help me while my other children watched in horror and embarrassment. I've been stuck on the ground of a Little League baseball field until an elderly man had to come and help me grab one half of her while I had the other half of her to help me carry her to the car because she fought me so hard that my arms turned to jello. That's just a few examples. So please, I beg of you, spare me the comments telling me that I don't get it. I do get it. I was you. I will never share pictures or videos from this time, so please don't even ask me. It's not my job to help prove something to your husband. I got a message like that. But also, I really don't have a lot of pictures and videos from that time anyway, unless it was for a doctor, because when something like that is going on, it is very difficult to pick up a camera and start recording what's going on while I'm trying to keep her and my other two kids safe. Some symptoms that would need a GI doc would be screaming, hitting, biting, kicking, self-injury, picking off fingernails, skin, hitting themselves in the face. That's pain, folks. Speaking of, low sense of pain or no sense of pain, or the opposite, hypersensitivity to pain. Stool smearing, digging, use your imagination. We're talking about the stomach here. Only eating 3 foods, anxiety, pacing, rocking back and forth, posturing, undigested food in the stool or very large stools, constipation, diarrhea, vomiting, behaviors that come in cycles, skills and symptoms that are consistently inconsistent. So those are symptoms that we had been relaying to our daughter's doctors for her entire life. We even saw a couple local GI specialists. Nobody cared. The GI specialist told us to give her a little bit of Miralax to make sure that she was going every day, and that was just very common with autism, and it's just the way that it was. Then you guessed it, my angel of a friend connected me with a GI specialist that only sees patients with autism. The pre-workup before seeing him felt pretty extensive at the time. It doesn't anymore now that I've done it a dozen times. After his inpatient workup, he suggested a upper and lower endoscopy and a pill cam. The day of the procedures was brutal. Holding food for the procedure and doing the clean out to prep for it while she was in the condition that she was in was not for the weak. The actual procedure was literally terrifying. She had already had previous issues with anesthesia. I literally tried to back out. I told the doctor I was terrified. I didn't know what was going to happen if we continued with the procedure. And he said, I don't want to know what's going to happen if you don't. She was reaching puberty and she was getting more unpredictable by the day. It was confirmed that she did have autoimmune inflammatory bowel disease in her small bowel. His suggestion was to get a round of steroids started as soon as possible. And by a round of steroids, I mean, it was probably a couple months that she was on them. I was absolutely terrified. Her behavior was so severe at that point. I thought there's no way that we're going to be able to get through this without needing police assistance at some point. It was pretty bad. Before we could even fill the prescription for the steroids, we noticed that she had settled down like to a completely different person. The doctor said that it was because it was the first time that she had been completely cleaned out, and do whatever you want with that. We started the steroids a few days after the anesthesia had worn off completely, and she never became aggressive with us ever again, still to this day. We had nothing but positive effects from the moment that we started them. Eventually, we had to add in a second anti-inflammatory once the steroids were titrated down, and the second one was specifically for bowel disease. She still has bowel disease to this day, and she is still doing treatment every single day. Impulsivity and hyperactivity, like running through the house from room to room to room to room, like being driven by a motor, that was pretty much corrected by changing her diet about a year prior to this, but the aggressive and violent behavior was bowel disease all day long. Can she become verbally aggressive or assertive when she has a flare-up in her bowel disease? Yes. And we know now that it'll be her stomach hurting because she can verbalize and tell us that it is her stomach that's hurting because she can also feel pain again. If she becomes verbally aggressive and it's not her stomach, it's because she's matching energy. If someone is talking to her nasty or she feels like there's some sort of injustice happening, she usually is going to speak her mind. That is pretty much genetic. She gets that from me. I do not expect her to sit in silence while someone is treating her like shit. No pun intended. But the last day that my daughter was physically aggressive with me was the day that we discovered her bowel disease and started treatment. Because I have spent time doing one-on-one mentoring with other parents, I can say with confidence that a lot of parents will not do this kind of work. They will think of every excuse under the book why they can't, why they shouldn't, or why they just simply won't. But I will say this, I know hundreds of other kids who have been diagnosed with the exact same thing, who started treatment and had very similar results. Good God, I hope this video helps someone because it was not an easy post to make. It is highly unlikely that I will speak on this again. So you are welcome to save this or share it with a friend. Okay, bye.
What to do with aggressive behavior. I'm Marty Applebaum, an expert who helps teachers and parents with aggressive behavior. So as a trainer of both teachers and parents, I hear over and over that what happens at home, it makes all the difference. Teachers tell me they wish parents would just take the power back, as too many children, no matter the age, seem to be in control of their home. See, there are times for words and redirection for sure, but there are also times for clear action and real consequences. Simply redirecting a child when they're aggressive by encouraging them to do a calming activity or another preferred activity doesn't build self-control. And it often can teach them that aggressive behavior can get rewarded. So here are 4 things we advise parents to consistently do at home. Number 1, hold children accountable. If a toy is thrown, it's taken away. If a mess is made, they clean it. If something is broken, it's not immediately replaced. Number 2, keep language short and firm. In the middle of aggression, don't give a speech. Use shorter lines they can process. The younger the child, the shorter the line. Hands to yourself, sit down. Number 3, stick to your boundaries. No bargaining, no drawn out negotiations. Follow your predictable and stated limits. And 4, use natural consequences. Children learn cause and effect. Unsafe choices mean losing access, sitting out, or the activity's going to end. Do you agree? Sound off below.
The parent-child power struggle is not a novel thing in any household. However, when you have a child with special needs, there's an additional facet to consider. Typically, children with special needs have a hard time with transitions and change. So they prefer to control everything because then they don't have to adapt or change or do any transitions, right? So it's really a way of compensating. But it's also one of the big reasons you need to flip that equation and you need to be the one in charge. And how you can do that is fairly easy if you're consistent with it. First is to create visuals of your routines. So you can show them what's happening next. Using timers, especially a visual timer, is perfect because you can tell them how long anything is occurring. And 3 is to respond and not react. That is by far the hardest, because if you start yelling and nagging, then you're introducing another variable into the controlling scenario, and you're also going to amp up their sensory system. But I'm not going to get into that. These are the 3 things you need to do to change the environment in your home. Stop reacting, create visuals, use timers for routines, and be consistent.
So how do you deal with a child that has aggressive behavior? I was recently asked this question, and it's something that I wanted to address here on TikTok because I know that this is something that a lot of parents and caregivers and educators deal with. And it's when a child presents aggressive behaviors. What do we do with that? So obviously the first and foremost thing is safety of the child and safety of those around them. So making sure they are safe, and if they are in a situation where they're being aggressive towards others, it is best to take the others out of the situation and leaving the child where they are at if all possible, just so that we are not physically moving them or getting them a chance to go through those emotions in a safe manner and get to a space of calm. The next things that we're going to do is look at the fact that all behaviors are communications. So what is that child trying to communicate? Now, these questions cannot be asked during the situation because the child will not be able to answer you in any way. So if your child is nonverbal, take these questions and look at it from the perspective of you doing the work for them and situations leading up to it. If they're verbal, you can ask them these questions if all possible. So what is going on prior to them becoming aggressive? Are they hungry? Are they having sensory overload? Maybe they're not having enough sensory input. So getting those wiggles out, things like that. Are they, having pain in their body that they're not able to communicate? Things like that. So looking at those first. Next thing you want to look at is what's going on with their emotional health. So is there something that is causing a lot of frustration? Is their schoolwork overwhelming and not able to understand their schoolwork? Is there a situation going on at home? Is there a situation going on at school? Is there a possibility of bullying? Because a lot of times children will react in a very aggressive manner when they're being bullied as well. Looking at the bigger picture is what helps the aggressive behavior. It's not a punishing the behavior. It's learning how to self-regulate for the child, having them be able to communicate their problems to you in a healthy and productive way. And when they are dysregulated, knowing how to help get themselves to a self-regulation or asking for help from others. So if they are at a stage where they can self-regulate, having some cards that you can pick up, be a post-it note or something, like a little red sign that they can, raise the teacher or put on the teacher's desk and go to like the safe zone in the classroom or a calm down space, and letting the teacher know that they need help regulating, but they don't know how to do it. And working with the child with those, to figure out what those emotions are is what's actually going to help the aggressive behavior. But if you have a specific question about it, let me know in the comments below.
All right, catch you in the next one. Bye.